Why are we telling people to not podcast?
We are telling people that, but we're also not at the same time. Let me explain, David.
So we're trying to cover both bases.
Yeah. Basically, from doing our own podcast and video podcast, we've learnt quite a lot.
It's true.
And what we've noticed is that actually it's a form of content or education or marketing that doesn't really need to be a podcast, but you can adapt the style of podcasting and use it in other places. And for a lot of businesses, having a podcast, which is ongoing, might be too much work or not something they want to do, but taking audio and visual and having two options, putting them both out at the same time, could get a better result from what they're currently doing.
Do you think that a certain type of presenting this way is easier? Do you think to the normal stuff?
Well, yeah. So what we're doing right now is technically a podcast,
Right.
and it's being filmed, and it probably takes the pressure off people. So it's slightly more conversational. It's a little bit more intimate. It's not quite as in your face. There's a little bit more room for error and ums and ahs. But it covers both these tracks that we're going to export this as audio and have it as video. Some people like to listen. So they want to learn by listening. Some people like to watch. And from our experience, what we found is more people have said they liked watching this, but when they didn't have the time and they wanted to catch up, they'd listen to it.
Right.
So you're covering all these tracks, and really you're not giving anyone an excuse to not watch it. So if you want people to, suck up whatever you're putting out there, I mean, if you've written it, recorded it, and filmed it, apart from tattooing it to their face, nothing left to do.
Well, it's hard because you've got to hold down
Their face.
that person, yeah.
So what we thought we'd do is run people through some benefits of not podcasting through using the podcasting/video podcasting methods to see how they might be able to benefit their business. Use number one. Imagine this. You're a new employee. Everything's a bit overwhelming. And they come in and they sit you down, pop the VHS in the videotape and go, right, for the next 3 hours, I'm going to watch this.
I'm surprised you know what a VHS
It
is.
loads up all fuzzy. I'm only 21, Dave. Oh, I know what a VHS is.
21 again.
Yeah.
12 years running.
So a 5 video series on a page. Each one's 20 minutes, covering different topics, chapter names they can all see, and a different member of the team is being interviewed or chatted to like this in each video. So you may have the head of the department or the head of the company sitting here doing the main bit, but Dave or John or Steve is answering each section.
Right.
So you're getting to meet people, you're learning in a slightly different way. You can add screenshots as well, but it will also work as an audio file so that they can listen to it in the car on the way to work as well. And this way is quite kind of personal and close. Even though we're not presenting to the camera, you still feel like you're part of the conversation, especially when you're listening to it. And also the great thing about this is the prep is nowhere near as long as the script that you're writing and so on. And there's a lot more pressure off the people doing it. So the second way you can not podcast is, as we mentioned earlier, is through a course. So an online course. So what do you think of the odd online courses you've come across so far?
I'm always a bit anxious that what I'm going to get isn't really going to suit me.
Yeah, that's fair enough. They're all just shot in different ways. Some are on a webcam, aren't they? Some are just screenshots. The standard's low. If you've got 2 courses that are great and the content's exactly the same and one just looks better, I mean, which one are you going to go for?
You're going to trust it more, aren't you?
It's just more credible.
Yeah.
Using this as a chattier style, it works best with more than one person, really. But inviting people into your course who are maybe experts that you can have on your course, filling in gaps you don't know. And again, of course, works as audio. It's just going to help bolster it all up a bit. So it's a not podcast, but it would be, instead of an ongoing series, here's my 5 videos, here's my 6. And I think really it's something every website should have on it is some sort of what we would call a lead magnet, which isn't a very nice word really, but you come to someone's website and it's like, here's my 5 video or audio or podcast or whatever you want to call it course on solving this problem. And this is a real simple way of doing it. Courses, training, they're kind of similar then.
Yeah.
Here's one that's not. Internal comms. So you're a massive company.
Yeah.
So you've got 10,000 people, even 1,000, and they're all ignoring the emails. They're getting this thing they have to open every week or every month, and no one really wants to. Create a podcast. This is actually a podcast, a video one as well, if you can. But it's not a podcast because it's not going on iTunes. It's staying just within your company, and you create this show where you're getting people on from the business.
Yep.
They're giving their stories, how I went from here in the company to here. It's always useful stuff. There's loads of updates going on in it, but it's fun. You know, it's behind closed doors, so why not have some fun? Why not give some personality? And yeah, have different guests on all the time, because I imagine at the moment
That could work. There's no reason why you couldn't just take the usual formats that we apply looking out internally. You can make a guest format. It's easy, right? You know what? Especially businesses that have more remote workforces. So, and that's much more common now. You might have 500 staff, but hardly any of them work day to day in the office together. They could be spread out globally. This is one way of keeping everyone in the same conversation.
Yeah. So if you're listening, Coca-Cola. So the next thing I thought, this is quite good, is actually live streaming and going, all right, we're going to do a show. It's going to go straight on YouTube, Facebook, all the other places. We're also going to save it. We can use it for training. We can use it for our email. We can use it for external marketing. But it's this like super duper multi-purpose thing that starts off as a live show. Because a lot of the time when people podcast, they don't do a huge amount of editing. I mean, ours is edited to death. But the average person will talk 50 minutes and that's it. And they put it out there. Yeah. So why not have it live? Take questions and answers. Imagine if we had people coming in now asking us questions on our podcast. It would add a new element. It creates a feeling of community.
Do you think that would give some people grey hairs, the idea of a live? Because what we started with, the first few points are all, this is much easier than something really structured.
Yeah.
And you can just knock it out ish. But this one, maybe a bit more planning, right?
Loads of planning. Yeah. This one's almost leaving the ease of what we've spoken about before, in that this should be kind of easier because they're not quite as polished.
Maybe do some of the others as a learning vehicle.
And then the final thing, just the fifth one, mini vlogs. So this is intended to be a mini vlog, and what we've decided is that it's somewhere in between a podcast and a vlog.
It's a sort of petite.
It was just
podcast.
A test, really.
Yeah.
Neil Patel's podcasts are generally 5 minutes long, and he releases them like almost every day. Maybe it is every day. Keep them short and sweet, but again, you can package them into a nice series. This doesn't have to be something that goes forever.
Yeah.
You can put them on iTunes. It doesn't mean you have to keep doing them.
Yeah.
You might go, look, we've made a 10 short mini vlog series. Listen to it, watch it. Everyone's a winner. There's no escape. And that's what we're experimenting with here.
Yeah.
But if you've been thinking, I'd like to do video, I'd like to do a podcast, and I think a lot of people out there would like to see a podcast, why not start off small and then lead into it and see what it's like?
I think that's fair advice.
Yeah. Hopefully this didn't sound like too much of an advert for a podcasting
It
service.
is definitely.
But we do podcasting.
Now it's an ad.
Yeah.